I'm running away from the past I left behind. I'm looking for answers, but I'm blinded by the light. I'm lost in the music, can I stay here for the night? I promise I'll be gone in the morning, out of sight and out of mind. No blind, out of sight and out of mind. No standing still. It's like you're stuck in a nightmare, but you keep doing it for the thrill. Well, this is reality, you only live it once, so wake up from your dream. But just for tonight, let the lines get blurred, let your thoughts be free, let your thoughts be free.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the latest Elite FPL stream with myself, Ray Qureshi. Good evening, Ray. Hello there.
Evening, Sivo. How are you, my man?
Well, we're going to get into it in a minute. I just want to quickly just say hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm joining everybody live for this quick live stream with myself and Ray. Usually Jason would be here, but he's got a bit of a sore throat. Funny that. After a bad game week. It's funny that, isn't it, Ray? Bit of a coincidence after a terrible game week, despite the fact Saka came through with a nice 7-pointer for him. Yeah, can't turn up with a sore throat. Doesn't matter though. We're here. That's the main thing.
What are the odds?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like doing an Ash, I think, with Jace now. I think that whenever Nick, he normally is having a stinker or something, Ash calls him out. So, Jason, I'm calling you out. As you can probably tell everybody, I'm in my mum's bedroom. So, yeah, I'm in my mum's bedroom. I've got a mascot over there, the teddy bear. There's Winnie the Pooh as well, Ray, and a little dog. So hopefully they can bring me more luck for next week's Game Week 5. But we are going to be talking about Game Week 4. Make sure if you are brand new around here, hit the subscribe button and make sure you're hitting the like button as well. Ray, let's just crack on. I want to get to the elephant in the room, basically, and I want to talk to you about my wildcard and the fact that if I'd have just left my team as it was, I'd have got 41 points. I wildcarded. How many points do you think I got? Unless you've already seen it on X that I've posted.
I haven't seen it. 44.
No, 41. But if I'd have played that legend, Calvert-Lewin, I'd be on 45. So, yeah, I want to get your immediate reaction, because obviously over the past 2 weeks, me and you have been discussing my wild card. You've been sending me over many Haaland drafts, even though you knew I was adamant that I wasn't going to be going with Haaland. You've been proven right. Ray, when I eventually showed you my wild card, tell us the honest truth. What did you think when you saw it?
Yeah, I thought for a non-Haaland draft, I thought it was quite solid. I was quite adamant about maybe having Saka if he didn't have Haaland and just having the most ridiculous midfield. Of course, Calvert-Lewin, I mean, my ultimate troll.
Do you want to just quickly tell us about your Hall of Lame, nicking that from Chain Wrestling? Your Hall of Lame that you have regarding players. You've got 3. Tell us.
Yeah, sure. So over the 4 years that I was absolutely obsessed with FPL, I had a wall of lame specifically for 3 special chaps. So number 3 was Leandro Trossard for Brighton. I remember that whenever I'd have him, he'd either not start or he'd blank. And, you know, this is prime Potter days as well, when Potter would literally make 7 or 8 changes per game. Number 2 is Wilfried Zaha. Specifically, I remember a couple of years ago, I had him for about a 7-8 game run where the fixtures were incredible. He plays every single game, but I think he got a goal and an assist. And funnily enough, despite the fact that he got those returns, I never got a green arrow with him. And number 1, the ultimate troll, the Hall of Lame, the guy who carries the torch, is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. 2 seasons ago, I think I finished 88k or something like that. And I had Calvert-Lewin for the last 6 games. And I couldn't actually get rid of him because he wasn't a fire because he was still playing. He didn't get 1 return from me, Steve. It was absolutely an abomination. And yeah, after that, I was like, I'll never get him again. So when you had him in your draft and you were explaining it to me and you're telling me the fixtures, I said, Steve-O, okay. But this guy is a prick. I hate him with all my... Well, I said a lot more things in the voice note, but I said, you can go back to school, get in his stupid skirt, the prick. And yeah, I never want to see him in any draft ever. So
and
when
then,
he scored a goal...
Hold on. So last night, I went out for a walk. And I was coincidentally voice messaging you. I was just responding to some voice messages and you were one of them. And you were telling me about your Hall of Lame. Again, nicked it from Chain Wrestling, I'm not going to lie. And I get back home and I see it's 2-0 to Everton. Quickly scroll on where's my phone? I can actually do this now. Scroll on my phone. Oh, God. Quickly. Who got the goals? And I laughed aloud. And then a WhatsApp popped through from you saying DCL with loads of laughing emojis. You couldn't make it up, Ray, could you?
No. And I said to you as well that the moment he actually scored, I said, "Fucking hell, Steve-O!" I literally said that down.
Yes. Yeah. Talking of differential picks, I keep forgetting it. Alex Volo, a shout out to Alex who created the brilliant thumbnail, and he went with the Isaac captain, and obviously we know how that went. I just want to quickly go through the just see who's joining us live. I'll do it now. I know I've seen his name. I know Alf is here. Guys.
Yeah. I'll try a quick impression. Hi guys, this is Mrs. Churchill here. So do you play FPL? Okay, I'll go next.
Well, that's one subscriber gone. Cheers, Alf, for your support and everything.
I've dropped your subscribers from 11 to 10. My boy. Love you.
I'm just going to do an alpha throughout the whole show. John Harris, legend. To be fair, but mate, I'll do an impression of John Harris. All right, John, mate. Nice, mate. How's it going? Hello. What was that? David Hamill, Sparta, Michael Swedding. Good Lord, he's making an appearance today. Matthew Zaishi. I haven't seen this name for a while. Giraffe Wife. Official Ray. Must be having a good week, as Jason says. As I just said, Alf is here. Good evening. Really am enjoying Alf's content. If you don't know his content, a bit of a different take on fantasy football content. He does in competition with us, he does a Saturday night reaction stream where he takes callers. And actually, to be fair, it's actually really enjoyable. I really enjoyed last night. So I was listening to it on the way down here to good old Newton Abbott. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. And he had Az came on, and I actually did. Funny enough, Alf, I actually talk about what Az mentioned in the bonus Total Steeler podcast that's coming out on Tuesday, Ray. I think I mentioned you, Ray, about like 20 times, slagging off women. But there in all seriousness, there is a serious tone to it when I talk about Az and what he says to Alf and regarding potentially leaving social media, but listen to the Total Steeler podcast for that. Alf is actually saying, why did people wildcard in 4? Well, for people like me, I had to. Because my team was an abomination. Now, ironically, if I'd have just left the team as it was, I've done the maths, and it turns out I would have got exactly the same points. But I would have lost 0.1 value on certain players, and there are other players in my team that are absolute garbage. So I essentially had to do it. The good news is, Ray, is that Saka went down by 0.1, so I actually will be able to get in for 10 million for Kevin De Bruyne in game week 6. The plan's still there. Talking of Alf, funny enough, we'll get onto it in a minute. I would argue that, I don't really look at anything on X because I've muted it all, to be honest with you, but there are a few accounts that I haven't muted regarding FPL that I follow, that is, and Alf is one of them. And he's had a stormer of a week this week, Ray. Most people, as you can probably imagine, Haaland doing very well. If you've owned Haaland, that's all the points you've got. But Alf, Ray, not only did he have Raya, not only did he have Saka.
Yeah, Gabriel.
Yeah. Great, isn't it? Thankfully, I'm having a nice enough season this year where I'm not getting annoyed by people's scores. SK is here, Zimmy's here, Shagger's here, Hegas is here, many, many more people. If you are brand new around here, like I said, make sure you are subscribing and hitting the like button. It'd be nice to get to 8,000. 8,000 subscribers by Christmas. Come on. Share alike. Hello, Lewis. Good evening. Oh, and if you have TikTok and you like... If you like stupid piss take videos of this channel and just taking the mick of FPL, you could follow us on TikTok at Elite FPL. It seems to be getting a lot of traction, Ray, considering we only did it just a couple of days ago. Yeah, got a lot of views considering. But let's crack on, Ray. Look, we've looked at my wildcard team and let's get real here. So I discussed at length yesterday during the 3 p.m. kickoff the reasonings behind my wild card, and I think the majority of these players that I brought in are the ones that you kind of expected them to be. So the Verbruggen Flecken a pairing, we knew that was going to be happening. The ones that I know for a fact you wouldn't have thought were happening were going to be Kanate for definite, Dunk, and Kevin De Bruyne. In this game week, in this wildcard team, in your humble opinion, what do you actually think of this team overall?
Yeah, again, from a non-Haaland aspect, I do like it. It's quite funny because the likes of Dunk, Kanate, I think I was kind of putting them in drafts that I was sending to you with Haaland. So when I saw you actually have these assets, I was like, okay, wow, he's really going in strong with that pretty much elite midfield of Palmer, Salah, and De Bruyne. I was very adamant with you to have Saka at the end, if you like, even though I know I was, tossing it up thinking, oh, what we're going to play. But then I was kind of really lent into, having Saka. But on paper, I kind of think it really does make sense for the next few game weeks, as you rightly said. And one of the things that really impresses me is you've got a really good bench like Calvert-Lewin and Mbeumo. Fantastic assets going forward on paper, at least. Now, João Pedro was the one because I did definitely text you. I said I'd go for Welbeck rather than João Pedro, but then you said I'm actually 0.1 off. And then I know I was mucking around a bit with your draft, what you could do now that you're not going for Haaland. But the thing is I really like the De Bruyne shout because you still have, a City attacker. And, of course, he won't get the points Haaland will, but it's most likely we would think that he would be feeding Haaland. It didn't work out. I think having Konate is a fantastic shout because I do think he's just nailed, as I kind of said to you and a lot of people have been saying. And I sincerely did not think that Nottingham Forest were going to score a goal. And by all aspects, they didn't really create massive opportunities. But I think going forward, you're really well set up, to be honest with you, Steve-O. One question I did have is, did you actually get a green arrow?
No. Without Haaland, it's not impossible. I think the Haaland captain... So I always use the moderator league as a kind of a give or take idea how well I'm doing, because the moderators within our group, within reason, they are very, very good at the game. And it's kind of like, is it a barometer, Ray? Is that the word I'm looking for here?
Barometer, yeah.
Barometer, yeah. Just a general idea of how I'm doing. And once the game updates and whatnot, I'm going to be... it hasn't actually updated as of yet. It won't update for at least another hour or so. But as it was as of yesterday, there's only 19 points between myself and Dread. Now, this is before substitutes and whatnot. 19 points between me and Dread, and he's a million places ahead of me. So if we're kind of looking at that kind of barometer, I think that if I'm 19 points from 400k, it's nothing.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the fact that I have got no Haaland. He will be coming in game week 7. And this is the key, Ray. I had to. I've already checked that I can do it. I needed to bring in players which allowed me to get Haaland back for game week 7. Now, the plan will be Watkins to go, Salah to go, which enables me Haaland plus, I think it's 8.2. I think. For a midfielder. And we know that the vast array of talent that is available at the 8 million or under bracket. So I'm able to do that, which means then I've got triple City against it. Who they're playing? Leicester, isn't it, at home? No, who is it they playing in
Fulham?
Who's sorry?
They play Fulham.
Fulham, of course. Sorry, yeah.
7.
So they've got Fulham in game week 7. And I could potentially have 3 Man City players against Fulham. Now, I'm just going to quickly look at the fixture list around Man City at the time, just to kind of give me an idea of the understanding where potential rotation may come into play. Now, I know that Kevin De Bruyne is going to be on the list of highly likely players to be rotated across the next several fixtures. He ain't going to get rotated against Arsenal. He's the number one name on the list of players to be starting against Arsenal. He ain't going to be playing against Watford, so there's his rest. He's then got Newcastle away, which I'd like to think he could be a starter. Then it's Slavan Bratislava away.
Well pronounced.
And then it's Fulham at home. Now they've got a 5-day break. A 5-day break between Bratislava and Fulham.
Mhm.
The game is at home, and then it's the international break where there's going to be 15 days between Man City and Wolves. So I think that by the time we get to game week 7, if I can I should be able to afford Haaland. It then means that I've got Haaland, Kevin De Bruyne, and probably Lewis playing against Fulham. That could be potentially huge, depending on what happens with the likes of Kevin De Bruyne and Lewis, and even Haaland himself moving forward. So I'm kind of happy with the fact that I've got this 3 game week plan in place. I will be bringing in Saka for Kevin. Actually, that's a good point. I'll be bringing in Saka for Kevin.
I was going to interrupt you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be bringing in Saka. I just realised for Kevin De Bruyne. However, Ray, I'll be honest with you. Watching that Chelsea game last night, despite the fact that Palmer looked good, he was pushed out way too wide to the right. It was just not effective at all. And that concerns me. I don't know if it was a one-off. I don't know if it was tactics. But I was not impressed by Palmer at all being out on the right-hand side. Do you know much about why he would be put out there at all?
Yeah, I think it was to more support defensively because Madueke just, I don't think he tracks well. I'll start again. I don't think he tracks back well, actually. So I think in the second half, I think Palmer was more kind of like the right winger, if you like, and Madueke was taking more central areas. And then obviously when they brought on, it's unbelievable who they can bring on, Sancho, Felix, and Nkunku. Then, yeah, basically it was almost like a 4-4-2, but Palmer was taking the right. A bit like yourself, it is a little bit of it was quite alarming how non-involved he was in the second half, isn't it? Everything was coming through the left side, either from Sancho or Neto prior to that. But you do have some lovely fixtures to continue the assessment, isn't it? Because there's no rush bringing in an Arsenal asset against Man City. So you can give Palmer the West Ham game, isn't it? And then see what happens. However, the thing is that, with Palmer, Salah, and De Bruyne that you have in there, is that you've got great price points when you want to bring in Saka. I actually don't think it's a question of if. And when you do look to do that, then obviously decide which asset that you feel is right to take out. But one thing I was wondering, is there a way of bringing in Saka and Haaland? And if you do that, who's kind of like that third asset that really needs to be dropped down to accommodate those two?
No, that is bordering on. Well, no, I know I can have. Let me just quickly do the maths here while we're doing. Do you want to just quickly go for the chat, Ray? Just quickly go for the chat, and then I'll try and do some maths here.
Yeah, no worries whatsoever. I know there was a question. Yeah, I kind of go what SK said. So, do we reckon Jota starts game week 5? I think so, SK, because, the thing about Darwin is he's just not a guy who can return whatsoever, isn't it? He gets in great positions. I'll go forward. Harry Dawson, how bad was the Saka injury? Harry, at the end of every game, Saka limps off. He gets kicked, skied down pretty much every single game. So it's very normal that he'll just kind of go off gingerly. But the good thing is we just sub him off now, put the ice packs on, and I'm very confident he'll be playing against Atalanta. But funnily enough, if he wasn't to start against Atalanta, you got players like Jesus and Sterling that could come in. So, I think offensively we're looking pretty hot right now. FPL Kevy saying, hey man, by the way, when do auto subs happen? Later tonight? Yep, it would do, knowing that from the game. Ben in Black, hit that like button for Jason's poorly throat. Yeah. He's very raspy, guys. He really is. He's absolutely raspy at the moment. Hello, how you doing, guys? Let me sing a song. Happy birthday. Yeah. Han, I got 20 points this week. Henderson, Face, Porro, Trent, Salah captain, Palmer, Bernardo, Barrington, Diaz, I would assume, Onana, Havertz, and Isak. Wow, 20 points is harsh. We got Dally Pool, 60 points this game week with triple captain Haaland. Was
Yeah,
400 in the world
Seamus
before
has
today's
been
game. Amazing.
he's been a long-standing fan of the show, and he's doing exceptionally well this year. Like, really well. He's like 2000th in the world. It's ludicrous. And he was very unfortunate yesterday with the last-minute goal from Nottingham Forest because he had double... I was going to say Man United defence, double Liverpool defence. But we were just talking just then, Ray, about maths. So Saka comes in for Kevin De Bruyne. Haaland comes in for Watkins. That leaves me with 4.8 in the bank if I get rid of Palmer. But get rid of Salah gives me 6.8 in the bank. If I have the 4.8 midfielder, just for argument's sake, Harry Winks, I'd have the midfield of Saka, Salah, Mbeumo and Rodgers. Rodgers, the player that looks phenomenal, but when it comes to fantasy football returns, is a waste of space. If, however, I get rid of Salah, I have then a midfield 4 of Mbeumo, Palmer, Saka, and a 6.8 midfielder who could be someone like Eze, because I think a lot of people are starting to get frustrated by him. Or someone else that comes out of the woodwork that could be, if I just look at the top performing midfielders that's 6.8 or under. You've got Madueke, you've got someone like McNeil, like a double up on Everton. Semenyo, who looked lively yesterday. He got you a yellow card, didn't he, Ray?
I know.
That did make me chuckle in that world record breaking game. So yeah, there's the key is, Ray, is by the time we get to game week 7, I'll be able to get in Haaland, and I'll have Saka as well. So in game week 6, I'm most likely, as it sits here right now, the thought process is to captain. Actually, no, Saka at home to Leicester. We'll need to look into a bit more deep diving.
I think you mean Southampton. Saka at home to Southampton, game week 7.
No, game week 6.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Game week 6. That's when I'm going to be bringing in De Bruyne. Sorry, taking out De Bruyne for Saka. So, because I need that coverage.
Yeah.
And there's a small possibility as well, Ray. A very, very, very small possibility that, depending on the circumstances, it could be a case of I may have to bite the bullet and get rid of Trent, do a -4, and bring in, or do for free, bring in a Arsenal defender. But we'll come to that closer to the time. But no, I think overall, Ray, moving forward with my team, I'm pretty happy. I like you say, next week, if I bring my team up for next week, I'm going with a 3-4-3. This will be the week when Calvert-Lewin decides, oh, well, I've done really well against Aston Villa, despite the fact quite literally being on my own up front with no support whatsoever. Whereas next week, when they're up against, I believe it's Wolves, I can't remember now, but they've got a decent fixture anyway. At this point, I'd like to think that hopefully Calvert-Lewin will come through. Yeah, he is away. Oh yeah, he's away at Leicester. Not the greatest of fixtures, but they're not keeping clean sheets. I expect that to be a 1-1, 2-1 either way, some nonsense like that. But I ain't going to be playing Rodgers at home to Wolves. I've kind of... And it's all depending, of course, on the information we received about Pedro as well. And I'm just assuming it's an international injury, Ray. So yeah, my team for next week will be Konate, Trent and Lewis. And then Mbeumo, Palmer, Salah captain, De Bruyne, Calvert-Lewin, Watkins and Pedro potentially becoming Rodgers if I find out that he isn't going to be available for the game against Nottingham Forest. But yeah, I'm kind of happy with that team. Salah's going to be the popular pick next week, depending on what happens in the Champions League, because I only just found out this, Ray, today, and obviously you'll be aware of this. The Champions League is very, 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 very different this year in the sense of it's one week it's Champions League, the following week it's Europa League, and the following week it's Champions League, and you're on a Thursday evening, Ray.
Yeah, so it's because it's 8 games in this group stage that really is the table, is that games will be happening Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So unfortunately for us, we're on Thursday, and then we're playing Man City away on Sunday. So back-to-back away games, but Man City are at home on Tuesday in the Champions League, and then obviously at home to us on Sunday. So, the calendar's just fallen that way. I'm not one of those conspiracy theorists about fixtures. That it is what it is. So yeah, so because of the fact that all the Champions League teams have got 2 extra games by default, so rather than the 6 you had before, now you got 8 to qualify into the last 16. Is now there will be a little more rotation. It will be a bit more ripe. There will be subs around the 60-70 minute mark once again. So that's really stuff to be very, very aware of. And therefore, if you look at a player like, even though I answered the question earlier about Jota in game week 5, is with Liverpool, I could definitely see, apart from Salah, a lot of rotation happening in those attacking areas, which is something we always expected anyway, especially for a player who's not historically reliable fitness-wise. So I think they'll look after him a lot, personally, in regards to Jota. But so yeah, it's going to be really interesting one, actually, Steve. And I mean, another thing in regards to something I want to say as well is, look, Rodgers is 5 million. People are just happy that he's a cheap, enabling person that plays. So I feel like expectations should be curbed a bit. I think, when I was looking on X in regards to Rodgers, I understand fully that he could have got returns. He's basically playing as a striker. I think it should be more of, I know it sounds rich coming from me, but it should be more of an appreciation that he is playing for a very offensive team, and he's only 5 million and he's in your team, and he's a player that you can rely on to come in when you need those players. If it was someone like Mbumo, I totally understand the frustration. He's 7 million. There should be an expectation there with him. But when you look at players like Rodgers, when you look at players like Semenyo, when you look at even players like Pedro, these guys are like 5.5. They're fantastically priced enablers that are going to be starting games. So I make my expectation very different for Semenyo, for example, than I would for obviously someone like a Watkins, where I'm like, I spent a lot of money on you here. I have an expectation. With someone like Semenyo, João Pedro, in this instance, Rodgers, they're just the enablers there to allow you to bring in more premium assets as you've done in your team. And I would think that's something I'd advocate in regards to mindset is, look, I know Rodgers didn't return, but he's starting for your team at 5 million so that you could have Salah and Haaland, for example. So, yeah, I think that's something that needs to be considered in all fantasy games, to be honest with you, Steve, because, to bore you for a minute with my one, I've got loads of enabling players. I've got Murillo, who's one of the cheapest defenders in the game. He's got me 2 clean sheets. I'm absolutely delighted. But my first thing was, okay, I've got him in my team, really cheap enabler, so that I can have Trent, Palmer, Salah, Haaland, Saka. You know what I mean? So the expectation is very different there. So, yeah, I think that's, cut yourself some slack as well, Steve, I'd say. I completely understand what you're saying about Rodgers, but the fact that you have him in your team is going to be definitely, in my opinion, a positive for you moving forward, because he could just stay in your squad pretty much for the foreseeable future.
Just want to say, there's a load of people watching right now. Make sure you are hitting the like button and subscribe button if you enjoy the content. Myself, Jason, and Ray will be bringing you the Game Week 5 preview at some point next week on Wednesday, probably. And then next week, Saturday, I'll be doing the 3 p.m. kickoffs again for more misery, death, and any other words of terminologies to describe depression. If you're an Arsenal fan, though, after the Atalanta and Man City game, I've got good news for you. You got 6 home games out of the next 8 fixtures. Next 7 fixtures. You got Bolton. Oh, can't wait for that, Ray. You're probably going for that for free, won't you?
Yeah, I'm going to take my son to the game.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. That'd be great to see the under-12s performing.
I'll be like, hey, in 2 years you'll be on the pitch, mate.
It'll be like your cousin, won't it?
Yeah.
Do you want to just, I don't know if you're willing to disclose that information you told me off air.
Yeah, absolutely. So my cousin is over at the moment because her son actually has trials for Bournemouth at the moment and Ipswich to be a goalkeeper. So he's only 14 years old. He's 6'3", so I don't know what they're feeding him in Australia. It's actually pretty insane. And yeah, he's just finished his 2 weeks trial at Bournemouth, hopefully successful there. And he starts tomorrow in Ipswich for, I think, about a week or maybe 2 weeks as well. So it's absolutely, I'm really happy for him. And the great thing is he's very he's just like a calm, chilled individual anyway. So he's just like, I'm just going to try my best and see what happens. But yeah, it's absolutely amazing the fact that, if he is successful, that, he'll do the whole digs thing, live with a family and stuff like that, and do the academy study, and then hopefully get an opportunity. So it's absolutely brilliant. I'm really, really proud of him, actually.
Yeah, he'll be able to meet the legend that is the Burnley legend in Murich, the guy yesterday. In fact, talking of Murich, actually, a lot of people scoff at him, but from a fantasy football perspective, at 4.5 million playing for Ipswich, you've got decent fixtures upcoming. You want a bit of a punt? Murich at 4.5, you can't go wrong. So yeah, going on Arsenal's fixtures, Ray, and seeing as you are the Arsenal guru, so after Atalanta and Man City, we know that you're going to be playing a full squad. Then you're going to be resting all your players against Bolton. Then it's Leicester, Paris Saint-Germain, just a few days later. Then it's Southampton at home before the international break. What kind of potential rotation are we going to be looking at regarding Leicester and Southampton that are bookending Paris Saint-Germain? Because we're going to expect the mainstays to be playing for Arsenal, the likes of Raya, Ben White, Rice, Havertz, probably Saka. And yeah, they are going to be the main hitters regarding fantasy football option. Of course, Saliba as well. But is there going to be rotation from Arteta, possibly for Leicester and Southampton, with Paris Saint-Germain in mind?
Yeah, I think you kind of got it right there. There's probably like 7 core players that will probably play those games. You kind of highlighted them, really. But, it's a bit like today is, Trossard, Martinelli come off and Jesus Sterling come on. The standard is pretty much probably like for like, very, very similar. And then in midfield, of course, Partey might not look right. We'll put Jorginho in there next to Rice. Can absolutely do a job. And Havertz, as I've been saying, I think in pre-season as well, the way he's built his body type, almost like a Mahrez in a way, is he's not carrying a lot of, like lean muscle, isn't it? He's just, he's got that, very languid kind of style, athletic style as well, where I think he can just play game after game after game after game, so he says. So I think the rotations would be more of, I think Havertz will pretty much start in midfield at the moment every game until Odegaard's back. That's just how I feel in my head. Or we could see, a random Waneri start against Leicester, for example, and then Havertz plays up front. But yeah, but the assets, the players who are at risk in air quotes are not people you'd look to bring in FPL anyway. Yeah. So I think, if you're thinking of a defensive asset, you'll go with all of them apart from the left back, because the left back could be Zinchenko, Timber, or Calafiori eventually, but Saliba, White, Gabriel, and Raya will play every single game, in my opinion, because there's no need to break them. Yeah. Declan Rice will absolutely play every single one. He's back for the Man City game. And, Havertz and Saka will play every single game, but then the others will be a big rotation. And again, it's game state, isn't it, Steve? If we're 2-0 up against Leicester after 70 minutes, we're going to make 5 subs or 4 subs, isn't it? So, yeah, I still think after the Man City game, I think Arsenal are the team to target, as you rightly said, as we've been advocating. And therefore, I would expect minimum 1 defender and attacker for pretty much every single team.
Yeah, I think it's funny because when you look with hindsight, it's all brilliant and everything's great with hindsight. And certainly I know Alf has been banged legitimately on Juice, whether it's on Juice or on his own streams, he's been banging on about Arsenal defenders, and you think to yourself, we're idiots for not really jumping on board Arsenal quick enough. We're idiots in the wildcard for why we didn't go with Arsenal defenders. They're the best defensive team in the division, proven last year, and even proven this year. Okay, very lucky against Aston Villa. You can't take that away. Wolves were, a stone throw away from scoring against you. Brighton, obviously, they did score against you. You were relatively comfortable by all accounts until Rice got sent off for that ridiculous yellow card, but whatever, we're not here to talk about that. I certainly do think that the play is exactly what you just said. So long as you've got a minimum of one of Saka/Havertz, but preferably Saka, and a defender, you are winning at the moment. And especially when you're moving forward, because this is the play, like you said. And this is the thing, isn't it, with games like this, chess, etc., snooker, and even darts. You can think so far ahead that you can pretty much work out the exact precise moments that, well, this is when most people are going to be bringing in Arsenal assets. Well, I've already got them in. I knew they were going to do all right. Whereas prats like me have gone with Liverpool and Kevin De Bruyne or whatever. I mean, talking of wild cards, just quickly, I don't know if you've even seen Jason's wild card. I will just quickly bring it up here. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on Jason's wild card and what you actually think of the players that he brought in, because he did go with Haaland and Salah. He went with that double up, and he's come out of it. You know, like I say, he's going to be overtaking me by 1 point, Ray. Mm-hmm. Jason is going to be 1 point ahead of me. And he got 52 points this week, the majority of those points coming from Haaland. He went with Henderson in goal, Dunk, Trent, Lewis, Saka, Diaz, Salah, Madueke, Pedro, Welbeck, Haaland, and on the bench, there's no point in telling you because they're all just duds.
Well, who came in for Pedro?
Face.
Okay.
Of Leicester. So he's getting 1 point off the bench from Face. What do you think of this wildcard team that Jason's done? Any standout names where you're like, oh God, I know you had a problem with me going. I had a draft with double Brighton attack.
Yeah, I did. I still echo it. I think, it's he's really kind of stacked on specific teams. I mean triple Brighton and then triple Liverpool, of course. So, however, he's already got Haaland and Salah. In my opinion, Haaland and Salah are the players that you just want to pretty much keep. It's not rocket science what I'm saying. I think what is maybe a concern for him is, apart from Haaland, he might have to do a little bit of surgery if he wants to bring in a mid-price striker, for example. We don't know what's going to happen with Diaz going forward, of course, with possible rotations. And I think the Madueke could be a real headache for him going forward because, like I said, they take off Madueke, Jackson, and Neto, and they bring on Nkunku, Sancho, and Felix, and Mudryk didn't even get off the bench. I mean, it's something that could just be a headache for him going forward. But look, on paper, it's still a solid team. Like I was saying to you, I don't think you can have a poor wild card at this time. I think there's just so many good assets, and ultimately, he's probably got himself a green arrow because of obviously what Haaland did. And moving forward, I think he still is in a good spot moving forward, but I could possibly see him moving to eventually a 3-5-2 maybe, dropping a João Pedro to a complete dud and using that million to make a Madueke into a, name your 6.5. But
someone like Eze, I guess. Or...
Yeah, I mean, someone like Eze ultimately, but could I quickly look at his bench as well?
Yeah, like I said, it's essentially a dud. He's got, I think it's Fabianski on the Fabianski, Theis. Who's the other player? Greaves he's got, who's okay, the 4 million defender, and then Franco, who doesn't even play for Crystal Palace.
Oh my God, he's got no one. Yeah,
he's got no one.
Yeah, so now when I look at it, it's kind of deterred my opinion slightly because he's literally got no one on the bench. Like he's just going to be playing these same assets the whole time.
Yeah.
But I imagine what he'll do by game week 6/7 is he'll start to do a bit of surgery. You know, I could see a Luis Diaz turning into a Rodgers, for example, and then he might look to bring in Gabriel. Does that make sense? And then he has double Arsenal as well. So I think he'll mix it around a bit, but I think that bench is very, very worrying in my opinion because he's got Madueke in there who's not guaranteed to start every week. And if that doesn't happen, what's going to happen? A Faisal or Greaves come in and suddenly, you know, you're looking a lot more bare bones. When I built you a Haaland and Salah draft, I think I still built it to the point where you can have probably 14 players that you could play. Here, those 13 players per se are with Face and Greaves. And I think when I built one for you, those 14 players included a Rodgers and a Dunk on the bench, for example. So, yeah, I think moving forward, he's going to run into a couple of potholes, but I'm pretty sure he has got some kind of plan moving forward where he will downgrade probably Luis Diaz to bring in a Gabriel per se and strengthen the squad.
I think in the Liverpool teams, I'm stating the obvious, in the front three, Salah and Diaz, if Salah's 100% guaranteed to start, Diaz is up there in the 90s.
Yeah.
I think he's always going to play. It's Jota. Jota's the one where I think if you own Jota, you've now got to start being potentially worried. Because I look at their upcoming fixtures and they are going to be, if I can just find Liverpool on the screen, which of course I can't because Arsenal aren't going to be playing Liverpool for about, I just had them on screen, there we are. 27th October, just to let people know, that's when Liverpool are going to be away at Arsenal. Yeah, they got AC Milan away. It's Bournemouth at home 4 days later. Then it's the League Cup 4 days later. And it's Wolves away 3 days later. Then we're on to Crystal Palace away. And then it's the international break where they come back to face Chelsea.
Well, they got Bologna. No, they got Bologna between the Wolves and Palace.
Oh, Bologna. Sorry, I read that wrong. Sorry, yeah. So, yeah, Wolves, Liverpool, Bologna. And then it's Crystal Palace, Liverpool. And then we got the international break where it's then at home to Chelsea, away at IP Leipzig. Then it's away at Arsenal. Home to Brighton, home to Bayer Leverkusen, home to Aston Villa. Liverpool's set of fixtures after, in my opinion, the Bologna game, where we've got Crystal Palace, Chelsea, RB Leipzig, Arsenal, Brighton, Bayer Leverkusen, Aston Villa. For me, Ray, I think it's time to get rid. I think it's goodbye Trent. Maybe still hold of Konate because he's only 5 million. Certainly, I think Trent could be the one, Ray, after Crystal Palace. More specifically, after Wolves. Could be the one to say goodbye to, Ray.
Yeah, funnily enough, I'm thinking the same. I mean, myself and John Harris were just having, like a mini chat there because he's playing Telegraph as well. And I'm like saying, yeah, I mean, the next guy to really kind of go is Trent to open up more, cheap defender and then look to bring in a Watkins, for example, or something like that. So, yeah, I definitely agree with you as well. I mean, the one thing as well is that would concern me with Liverpool is if you look at the breaks between those days. So, they got Milan 4 days, Bournemouth 4 days, West Ham. Okay, I know it's the League Cup, 3 days, then Wolves, then 4 days, they got 4 or 5 days Bologna, then 3 days they got Palace. These are just so many games coming thick and fast for Liverpool. And, they bring in Gakpo and Darwin the other day, didn't they, against Nottingham Forest as well. Gakpo and Darwin are going to start games in this next 3 or 4 matches, aren't they? One, both together, definitely separate. And the only safe one is Salah. So I agree with you. In their best 11, Diaz is in there. But, you know, if it's a really hard-fought game against Milan and they're playing Bournemouth, or, you know, after the Wolves game, they got Bologna and stuff like that, I'd be surprised if Diaz starts every single one of these games, apart from the West Ham, you know, Carling Cup game. So I do actually concur that Diaz and Trent, for Jason, for example, probably be the players he looks to get rid of. And with Trent, I agree, because obviously Konate can't cover Trent, but he will cover defensive points if and when. And he's only 5 million, isn't he? I think he's brilliant at 5 million, in my opinion, because Liverpool, even though they conceded, okay, you know, I still think defensively going forward, they're going to be better than they were under Klopp.
In your opinion, who do you think the best Arsenal defender is to come in for Trent? And this is me. I like Ben White. I know he's 6.5, 0.5 more than Gabriel and Saliba. I like Ben White, Ray. Am I going mad?
No, but I would go with Saliba. In my opinion, if he starts every single game, Gabriel is the best Arsenal defender to have in fantasy. Even better than having Raya. Yeah, I think Gabriel is like one of the top 4 Arsenal assets. But again, you don't. Calafiori is going to eventually get games, and when he does, will he come in as left back, or could he come in as centre back at times? Keep Timber on the left. At the moment, Arteta will not touch it. So I would say no for White, and still lean more towards Saliba, understanding that Gabriel is the bigger attacking threat, because again, in the last 3 seasons, he scored the most goals in the Premier League. The defender with the highest amount of goals. I think he's got something like 11 Premier League goals in the last 3 seasons or something like that, Steve-O. And I think Saliba's got maybe 4 in the last 2 seasons, I want to say. But yeah, I'd say go for Saliba. I want to say Gabriel so much to you, but go for Saliba and use that 0.5 elsewhere.
A very Mert F saying, I don't normally read these out. Steve is a legend, best FPL content creator by a mile, and his reactions are hilarious. I said it on stream yesterday. At the end of the day, I just do this because we've created a community which enjoy the work that myself and Jason, and now with Ray on board, do. We just talk fantasy football, how it affects us. We talk football as Ray's doing now. I like to bring on individuals like Ray, Dan, etc. for their expertise. I'm just a bloke that can chat, but I like to get an informative opinion from someone like Ray, hence why next week, not next week, but the Game Week 6 preview, it'll be back to bringing on a guest. Hopefully there'll be no technology, but I do appreciate the conversation. If you do like the stuff, I always keep saying, if you do like the stuff we do here, please share the stuff on social media. Make sure you're hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, all that nonsense, because it just allows more people access. Whether they like it or not, it's down to their own opinion. A DJ saying that Lewis will not play next week against Arsenal, Ray. Do you think that DJ's onto something, or do you think he's speaking absolute twaddle?
I saw him starting for you, but I wouldn't start him. I'd play Dunk from your team personally. But I don't think he'll start against Arsenal. I think it's going to be Walker and Ake, personally. Sorry, Walker and Gvardiol. I think they'll be the fullbacks.
SK, I mean, you already answered the question, but I'm going to ask you live. Best Arsenal defender is Raya, 5.5 into the defence. He's a bonus point magnet as well with a clean sheet. So what are your thoughts on that, Ray?
Yeah, he's making a lot of saves at the moment, SK. You know, not something that Arteta will be very happy with. But let's be honest with you, is he's played Aston Villa and Spurs, who are part of probably the top 6 teams in the Premier League, and against Brighton, where we were down to 10 men after pretty much the whole of the second half. So I can understand absolutely where you come from at 0.5 cheaper, but I'm always against going for goalkeepers that are higher than 4.5. I don't feel in the grand scheme it's worth it, but hey, if you have him, winning.
Absolutely, yeah. I completely agree. I just want to quickly go over a few highlighted results. I mean, obviously we haven't even asked you about the North London derby. We will come on to that last. But a few highlighted results from me from yesterday were certainly Brighton 0, Ipswich 0. I did call the Crystal Palace game Leicester, despite the fact not putting in the Super Brew. I did say I think it could actually end up being 1-1. Obviously, it ended 2-2, despite the fact that Leicester were 2-0 up, I believe they were. The highlighted results, obviously Aston Villa in that extraordinary game, end-to-end being 3-2. I predicted the Bournemouth-Chelsea game to be end-to-end, which it was, and I predicted 3-2 to Chelsea. But the two games were the other way round, and it ended up being Aston Villa winning 3-2 rather than Chelsea. Chelsea, of course, last night in a game in which I believe if both teams did score, I don't think anybody would have any complaints. Sanchez, for me, was the man of the match, not Jadon Sancho. I don't know what the hell that was all about, but Sanchez has an absolute storm, obviously, with a penalty save as well yesterday. And I thought it was an end-to-end game. I just thought the finishing was pretty poor. Despite some okay saves, there was some very good ones from Sanchez, but overall, a lot of the shots were at the goalkeepers. Yeah, any standout results? Obviously, Liverpool losing, of course, 1-0. How can I forget that? That was, well, like you said, it was pretty much one of, I think, 2 shots Nottingham Forest had on target, and they scored with that one goal. As Adrian Durham said on TalkSport, it was just a masterclass from Nuno. Admittedly, Liverpool weren't on fire, but yeah, any standout results from you, Ray, yesterday that you were like, good lord, that's a bit of a shocker?
Yeah, the Bournemouth-Chelsea game, just from a game aspect, I watched the whole game and I was thoroughly entertained. I thought it was an excellent advert for the game, apart from the bookings, which I think it was a record game, and they made it out almost to be like a positive. And I'm like, I don't want you referees I don't want to know your name. Yeah, just blow the whistle, make sure no one gets killed. But anyway, but I thought the actual game itself was brilliant. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought Bournemouth was so unlucky. They deserved at least a draw, in my opinion. But like anything, if you can have all these opportunities, Evan Nielsen, I gave a lot of credit to the save. I thought it was a really good save, but still, it's a penalty, put it away. But the actual football match itself was just. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I said, when you watch a penalty take and you go, he's missing this. I genuinely said last night, he's missing this. You could tell he was nervous. He was sweating. It was going to be potentially his first goal for Bournemouth. He clearly told Semenyo, because I saw Semenyo say, I'll have this. And clearly words were exchanged where basically Semenyo wasn't going to take the penalty. So this bloke stepped up. And I just saw the run-up and I was just immediately went, he's definitely not missing scoring this now. And yeah, like you said, Sanchez goes and pulls out the save.
Yeah, and I think also, like we spoke about it pre-season, I really thought Kluivert was going to be the designated penalty taker because he did take one during pre-season. But, again, I mean, it's just, I couldn't believe Bournemouth didn't score a goal. It was actually kind of crazy. But then once again, Chelsea can bring on this unbelievable array of attacking talent. Like, it's unbelievable the players they bring on. Like, all 3 of them are just fantastic footballers. And like I said, Mudryk didn't even come off the bench, Steve-O. Like, it's mad. So, yeah, and this is why Chelsea will always be, from a footballing aspect, just a threat against any team. Anyone that they play, they're going to be a threat with those kind of players that they can bring off the bench. And to be honest with you, Maresca's obviously trying to find a system there. And they've got, okay, they've got 7 points out of 12. Nothing to go, nothing to write home about. But, that does include 2 away wins already. So, I think Chelsea could be an interesting team, not from an FPL aspect, but just from an entertainment aspect, isn't it? Forget clean sheets, but my goodness me, they are going to get some games like they did against Wolves where they're going to get 5-6 goals just from the fact they got so many attacking players of high quality, really.
Yeah, I am happy owning Palmer, but that West Ham game is going to tell me a lot, along with the Brighton game. They're 2 good teams, but I expect, again, Chelsea in games that are always going to be entertaining, end-to-end. Like I said, even in the Bournemouth game, look, if either team had won 2-1 or 3-1 or 3-2, there'd be no complaints here. We then move on today where Wolves... I get more frustrated from Super Brew point of view, where I predicted that game to end 1-1, and I saw it was 1-1. I'm thinking, oh, good, that's all right, then it's going to come through. And then I see Harvey Bloody Barnes scores a goal with Joe Willock, I believe, got the assist. Ended 2-1 to Newcastle. Alex follows captain and Isaac. Is this right? He went off with a bloodied nose.
Yeah, he went off in 46 minutes.
Right, okay, so he came off at half time. Was it a serious injury? I'm assuming nothing that major.
I was traveling, Steve.
Yeah,
so I was
good
on
point.
my way back. So yeah, I couldn't tell you, but it's really interesting because in Super Brew I predicted 2-1 Newcastle, so I got an exact score.
Right.
So yeah, at the moment I think I'm 4 points off you, so I went up 16 places.
Well, just quickly talking.
Not in the relegation zone now.
Yeah, talking of Super Brew, funny you mention that because I looked at the table, and all the players that normally do quite well at predictions, like myself, Firetalk, Lino, quite low down. Maybe tells people something that maybe the results aren't going the way we'd expect, or I'm just bitter. But today, Ray, I listened.
The latter.
Yes, it definitely is going to be the latter. Tottenham 0, Arsenal 1. Now, I had Mark Goldbridge on listening to the game, and admittedly, you haven't got the atmosphere. If you listen to it on the radio or even watch it on TV, but in my case, listen to it on the radio if I was to do so driving down here, you've got the understanding of where the crowd are, what the commentary are actually looking at and describing the action to you. All I've got with Mark Goldbridge is just occasionally him saying, oh, Saka's in here, or Havertz is looking good, or whatever it may be. Solanke should have done better. And from my basic understanding, it sounded like to me, Tottenham didn't take their chances. Arsenal were the more professional team, as I'd like to say. They controlled the game in a manner which you'd expect Arsenal to do, contain Spurs, hit on the counter-attack. They get a goal from a set piece. I don't know if it was a corner or a free kick. You'll have to tell me in a second. But as an Arsenal fan, obviously you're going to be very happy with the win, Ray. I think by all accounts, Arsenal kind of just edged it deservingly with... Yeah, I'm assuming you watched the game. And what did you think?
Yeah, so it wasn't a professional job per se.
Okay.
The first 15 minutes were tough, simply because we played a double pivot with Partey and Jorginho. We haven't played a double pivot in a long time. Even when Partey and Rice are playing, Partey will sit in and Rice will kind of be the, kind of box-to-box midfielder. But in this, it was very much Partey and Jorginho just kind of acting in front of the defence. And, Tottenham's pure exuberance and energy is really, it's really impressive. It really is impressive. But then, probably from about 20 minutes to about 30, 32 minutes, is we were getting opportunities, and Martinelli had kind of a one-on-one coming off the left, where he could have come in a lot more, and kind of like that Henry finish, kind of like far corner. But it's just a man bereft of confidence, which is why, when I predicted the lineup, I got one off. I really thought Sterling was going to start over Martinelli, but Martinelli played. But then after that, it was becoming a little bit bitty, and then we started to get a bit more control, not necessarily of position, but we were controlling Spurs in regards to areas, if that makes sense. We didn't allow them to get too far in certain areas, and closing out halftime, I was like, okay, I think second half we'll get him now. But then going into the second half, they weren't necessarily having chances to shoot, but they were almost having opportunities to create opportunities. And they were really able to penetrate through our midfield quite easily, especially the central areas. We kind of shored that up. And then, yes, we started to get on the ball a bit more, but we weren't kind of creating as much in air quotes as we were in the first half. But then when the corner came, we're just absolutely brilliant at set pieces, Steve-O. We're just so good. I mean, the coach who kind of has been coaching us to do this for a couple of years has got so many different routines, but what's the best one? Whipping in swinger. Gabriel kind of just pretty much manhandles off, I think it was Bentaker, and then headers in. And then after that, really, they didn't create anything. If anything, we look more dangerous on the counter, as you rightly said. But we're just so defensively aware of what we need to do. And it was so impressive because that was not our first choice central midfield. And, we probably had a good 3 or 4 first teamers out, especially guys that are extremely important, which is Havertz being up front, Odegaard being in midfield, and Declan Rice. Is that, from a footballing aspect, I don't think this was as smash and grab as the Villa game as we spoke about. But we got the win today, and you could see Arsenal getting a win, if that makes sense, because Spurs are very immature and naive off the ball. On the ball, it's like Helton Skelton, make it exciting, but what they've got 2 wins and 2 losses now. Am I right there? So
they got a draw, didn't they, against Leicester?
Okay, so they've got what's that? A win, 2 wins and a draw, or whatever it is, but. Ultimately, I think it's something like they've only won 3 out of their last 11 games or something like that. So from a footballing aspect, Ange has to kind of because they didn't end the season well. Ange has to kind of sort this out a bit now, because I think we spoke about it last season as well. I think the novelty will eventually run out if you don't start getting results on the board. So, Tottenham did exactly what we were going to do, what I thought they were going to do. If we had our lineup as expected, I genuinely feel we would have comfortably run out this game because of our maturity levels, because of the fact that we got a lot more nous. But from a as an Arsenal fan, I'm absolutely delighted that we've been away at Villa, we've been away at Spurs, we've won both games, and we haven't conceded a goal. This just further kind of puts weight on the fact that Arsenal are just genuine title contenders now.
Yeah, absolutely, and they needed to get that win today, 100%. John Harris with a question: if you're a non-Salah owner, you're a non-Salah owner, bloody hell, who to captain next week? I've got the fixtures up on the screen there. So if you're a non-Salah owner, just looking at it here right now, potentially Palmer away at West Ham, but it's an early kickoff. Yeah, don't want to be doing that. Haaland versus Arsenal, even though I do think, to be honest with you, that you guys should keep him quiet. But would I be surprised if he scores? No, because he's Haaland at the end of the day. He's a world-class striker, stating the bloody obvious. Other fixtures to note, potentially. Note this down, John Harris. I know you're a bit worried about Eze not being on penalties, but Eze against Man United, possibly. Maybe even Fernandes against the opposition, Crystal Palace. Spurs at home to Brentford, no, you don't want to be going anywhere near that. So, say it quietly, Ray. Calvert-Lewin away at Leicester. Or even, if you own Jamie Vardy at home to Everton. You never know. Or Alex Volo.
Okay.
If Alex Volo... Hey, say that again.
Integrity.
Yeah.
Some integrity on the stream. Watkins, I love Watkins at home to Wolves.
Yes.
That would be the guy that I would advocate.
I would.
Yeah.
Even maybe Isaac, Alex Volo, away at Fulham. And just a few more comments before, because I know we've got to go in. My flaming laptop's about to explode, it sounds like. A few comments here saying once the chat loads up, which of course it doesn't want to. The second one loaded, so we're just going to leave it there, I think, Ray. Any other words before we get out of here, Ray?
Yeah, I think also, when it comes to Wildcard and stuff like that, is you've built it for the foreseeable future. Just stick to what your plan is. Like, for example, obviously Steve-O's had a frustrating week, but at the same time, you had an expectation that you might not get that green arrow simply because of what Haaland could do. Haaland did it, but then going forward, you have a fantastic team for the next 2 game weeks. So I'd say to everyone, just stick to your plan at the moment. Don't knee-jerk. Don't worry about price rises. Don't worry about price falls. Everyone has a great team going forward. They should do. I look at yours specifically, Steve-O, and, the only change I'd make is Dunk plays instead of Lewis, but otherwise, fantastic lineup on paper. I'd absolutely start in Boomer away to Spurs. Brentford will have opportunities. And, your first bench can be someone like Rodgers. What a fantastic first guy to get off the bench, isn't it? So I'd just say, everyone, just relax a bit. I know we get excited. I've been an absolute victim of this the whole time. So now I just sound like I'm preaching, but seriously, I have lived it. Stick to that plan for a few more weeks, roll those transfers, and then in game week 6, when it starts to get a bit more interesting in regards to Arsenal suddenly being back on the table, then you got a few transfers to actually play with going forward without taking unnecessary hits. So, yes, Steven, that's me, man. But as always, thank you very much, and thank you, everyone.
FPL Levy saying here, arguably Spurs played better, but they also did nothing much with their possession. Come on, you Gunners. Spurs a bottle job, says castles made of sand. Andrew Ferguson just clarifying about Isaac, saying it wasn't that serious, it was just the fact they couldn't stop the blood pouring out his nose. Yahia is saying that Son could be a good captaincy next week. A castle made of sand is saying Vardy I like for a punt. And also Heggis saying, what about a Leicester midfielder? What you mean, like Mavi Didi? That was keep banging on about during my walking videos. Yeah. How did he do yesterday? Oh yeah, he came with a goal. Did he get an assist, I think, last week as well or something? Maybe that guy, Mavi Didi, that I kept banging on about is the one to go for after all. Cheers, Ray. I really do appreciate you coming on for this hour. I know you've got to get out of here. I know we've gone over a bit of time, but it's been a great conversation as ever. Everybody that's been joining us live, make sure you are hitting the subscribe button if you enjoy the content myself, Ray and Jason do for you. We are back on for the Game Week 5 preview on Wednesday, most likely at 8 p.m. Stay tuned if we're even earlier than that. Make sure that you're following us on X, which is at Elite FPL. In fact, I say make sure. It doesn't really matter whether you follow us on X or not. It makes no difference whatsoever. Just make sure you're following us on YouTube and hitting the like button. That's the more important thing. You've got 1 week left. 1 week left until the Patreon Trophy League closes. So anybody that's a Patreon, that's a $4.99 contributor, if you want to participate, the game week scores start from game week 4. So the Patreon Trophy League starts from game week 4. So if you had a good game week, you could go and win the Trophy League because it starts from game week 4. But you've got until the deadline of game week 5 to join that particular Trophy League. Just search for us on Patreon. If you want to support the show, you can do. There's the $1.99 option or the $4.99 option. Other than that, again, thanks to Alex Volo for the great thumbnails he does. And yeah, I'm getting out of here, Ray. You're going to get out of here. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Take it easy.